Right, folks, I think that's the stream sorted. So, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome. So I thought I'd jump on a quick stream today because I want to do a small piece of animation ready for the official live stream on Thursday, which is for the giveaway of the OpenToonz course. And I'd like a couple of overlays. So I thought I'd have a go at doing one today, and I thought, why not try it on a stream and let you all watch along, watch all the mistakes happen, see if I can actually get this thing completed, and see where we are. And if you've got any questions, do fire them in as we go along. And as you've pointed out, I've got some music playing. If that's too loud or too irritating, just let me know. I can sort something out for that, I'm sure. So Kalal's asking about the giveaway. Yes, so I've made my OpenToonz course, which is out now, and I'll promote that some other time properly. But basically, I did a giveaway through my Twitter account, and I've asked people if they follow me and retweet a competition tweet. On Thursday, I'm going to pick out a name randomly to win a free copy of the course. No, it's just a Twitter this time, I'm afraid. Excelator. I was thinking about doing something through Facebook or through Discord, but I thought first off initially we'd just use Twitter to get things started. And part of the reason is purely to promote the course to other people, to get the course heard out there so people know it's available. But also because a few people have commented saying how you can't necessarily afford the course or you can't afford to spare the money, which is fair enough. And I've not really made the course to make money. It's out there because I want people to learn about OpenToonz and start animating. If you can afford it, fantastic. Go ahead, I'll take your money with pleasure. But I know that not everyone can. So I want to give away a copy of the course, which I'm doing on Thursday evening at, I believe, about 6 PM. I'll start the stream. But for everybody that's here, so that you know, I plan to start the stream for about half an hour or so to give everybody a chance to join in. So I might do the actual draw for winning the course at 6:30. So for the rest of the stream, I want to run some Q&A over some OpenToonz questions. And I've already had a couple sent through to me on my Discord. So I'll be trying to answer them the best I can and showing a little bit of how you might do a few things. But if in the meantime you've got any other questions, fire them through to me, either as a response to this video when the stream's completed, or over on my Discord channel. And you can find all the links to that in the description below. Or on the night, you can send me a message through the chat window and we'll see if we can get your question answered. Okay, so what do I want to do this evening? So I kind of, during the stream, I plan to have the stream on Thursday for the giveaway, but also it's a bit of a kick in the backside for me to start streaming regularly if I can. So I'm thinking, I don't know, weekly or bi-weekly. I'm not too sure yet. But as I stream, obviously I'd like to have some overlays on screen just to promote a few things, to mention a few things, to mention there's a Facebook account, to join me on Twitter, to follow the Discord, all that kind of thing. So I thought I'd start doing a bit of an animation today for one of them, just to see how it goes and to see how well it works. Okay, so let me just quickly go back to the chat and have a look at what's on there. Yes, Enyo-san, the stream will be up on YouTube later on. I believe YouTube automatically uploads the streams when you've finished, so they're available. But I'm going to take a look at that and see how it looks, because I'm also recording this through OBS. So if the stream's not a great quality, or if there's any huge problems, I can always upload it as a video later. That's okay, Kalal. If you can't donate for whatever reason, whether it be problems with the regions or for anybody else who can't afford to donate, not a problem. I've got a few ways to help out the channel if you can. So I've got the Buy Me a Coffee, which I'm going to start on the animation soon. We can donate to buy me a coffee or a tea, or a Darren Tea if you prefer. There's PayPal. There's also my kit I promote. You can take a look at the kit I use, and that takes you through an Amazon account. And various other means. But the main promotion that I want, the main support I like, is sharing the videos and letting people know about OpenToonz. Okay, just before I wait for Enyo-san to complete the question, let me get started and create myself a project. So I'm using Tahoma at the minute, and this is the latest version. In fact, the latest and greatest as of this morning. It's got a few extra features in that I might show later. We'll see how we get on. They're still preliminary, so they could change. So I don't know if I want to overly show too many of them, but we'll get to that. So let me first create a new project. So we'll create it in my Tahoma folder that I've got in my documents. Good question, Exulator. What's my relation to OpenToonz? Basically, I'm just an animation fan. Always have been. And then I heard about OpenToonz being released as open source 3 years ago or so. I think it was 3.5 years ago. And I followed the news story, went to the website and downloaded it like a lot of people. And with version 1, it was pretty awful in places. The interface was terrible to try and use. And it crashed regular. It wasn't very clear what to do, but I could see the potential with it, so I persevered. And at the time, there's 1 or 2 tutorials coming out. Not too many, but 1 or 2 to give you a hint of the flavour of what you can do with OpenToonz. And that's kind of why I started making my own tutorials. To share with other people the things I'd learned that I'd not been able to find out from a third party. So I created the tutorials to try and get people started. Yes, of course I will. If there's something specific to Tahoma, Enyo's question there, I'll let you know if it can't be used in OpenToonz, because I realise not everybody will want to move over to Tahoma. You'll be comfortable in OpenToonz, maybe you're partly through a project so you can't change, that's no problem. Tahoma only has a few, really. Most of the changes are quite cosmetic, so they are things like hidden features, or should I say, some complicated features have been hidden, so you get a simpler view of the system. But yes, we'll go through that as we come across it. No, Exulator, self-taught animation. I've dabbled through the years. I'm by no means an expert or proficient. It's really just a hobby for me. Like a lot of people, I started with flip books, drawing in the corners of the pages at school, little stick men running around. And I've tried different softwares over the years, and not really found any that's really been suitable, that's felt right, until I hit OpenToonz. And it really was a bolt out the blue of this is a great animation software. And I think for me it's partially down to my age, that I remember the traditional Disney way of doing things, or even the traditional animation way of doing things, with flipping between pages, drawing on paper, and layering a background followed by a character and then a second character, all on different acetate cell sheets. And OpenToonz replicates that really well with the X sheet and the new timeline, and the use of the levels once you get your head around what a level actually means. It just fits for me, and it just works and seems sensible. But I know that for people that have used Flash, Adobe Animate, and other animation softwares, the way OpenToonz works isn't necessarily the most obvious way of working. So again, that's why I'm so keen on getting these tutorials out there, mostly for free on YouTube, but as well as the full course for people that want to dig that little bit deeper. I don't know if I'll be able to give you some drama of what softwares I've used, but I've used, perhaps was it in 2000 or so, I picked up Flash and started using that for a couple of years, and that was okay. I thought some of the ways you worked were a bit peculiar, but that's just the peculiarities of the software. Having to convert drawings into symbols before you can reuse them, that kind of thing. It didn't fit with my impression of what animation should be, where you draw a number of drawings, you can repeat them using an X sheet to plan out, to get, for instance, a walk cycle. You draw 8 separate drawings and then repeat 1 to 8, 1 to 8, 1 to 8, potentially scrolling them sideways across the camera view. And using symbols and the way things worked in Flash didn't quite work right, but it was a great way to get into animation, and at the time it was reasonably cheap until it became a monthly subscription, and so many people have said they've come to OpenToonz because of that subscription and the price of other software, which is just great news for us and the community. So looks like an owl face asked the difference between Tahoma and OpenToonz. There's one or two small differences, but really you need to go back to how they're built, which is something that a lot of you won't necessarily be interested in, but is important to understand the two softwares. So Tahoma is built on the base code from OpenToonz. So under the hood, everything is exactly the same. The way levels work, the way drawings are added, the way animations are put together. But then Tahoma, the guy that runs Tahoma and has built it, that's Jeremy Bullock, formerly known as Turtles, other features directly into Tahoma. But as bug fixers have gone into OpenToonz, is also pulling those over into Tahoma. So really Tahoma has all the features of OpenToonz right now, plus some additional ones, and packaged in a simpler view. So you could use either software, and today projects created in OpenToonz can work on Tahoma, and almost vice versa. If you create a project in Tahoma, there's a small change in the project file we need to look at before you can open it in OpenToonz, but everything else about the project is compatible. So basically there's just two versions of a very similar program. Thank you, Kalal. How old am I? I'm very old. Is that a good answer? It's close enough. Okay, let's take a look at this project then. So, I'm not quite sure how I want the overlays to work for the main things I want to show. For promoting the Discord, Facebook, etc. So I'm kind of going to work it out as I go along, and maybe if you guys have any ideas, you can send them over to me. So let's just get started, just to get something moving. So the first one I want to look at is I want to mention the Buy Me a Coffee. So let's give this a project name. And I can always rename the project because in Tahoma, the project name just affects the file on disk. So if I call this overlay Buy Me a Coffee. Okay. And we'll just name this the same. And I'll leave the full size screen HD size and 24 frames a second. And if I bring in an Explorer view here, you can see that in my Tahoma folder, it's created a folder with the project name. And inside there's the usual folders you may recognise from OpenToonz. Because it's Tahoma, there's also a stop motion folder for when you do stop motion animations, which obviously I'm not going to look at today. And inside the scenes folder is the name of my scene. So I could always rename those two when I decide later how I'm going to store these projects, because I'm going to have a number of projects or a number of scenes possibly for these different overlays. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to organise those yet. So I'll put that over there. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to draw a coffee cup. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick search in Google. Okay, let's bring that over here so you can see what I'm looking at. So I want to show this sort of a style coffee cup. So I'd want an image with one of those just for a guide. That's pretty good. Okay, let's take a look at that. Open the image in new tab, save image as. So I'll save that to disk. I'll save that onto my desktop. Oh, JPEG, JFIF. No, I want a PNG or a JPEG, ideally. So let's take a look for another one. I like this angle that it's at. This is the kind of view I'd like to get. Same again. Tell you what I'll do, again this is the first probably might hit if you're doing a similar thing. Let's open that image in a new tab. Okay, I'll do a print screen by holding Alt and pressing print screen on my computer, and then I'll open up Paint 3D. We'll paste that in. And I'll crop it down to fit, and I'll save this as an image myself and use this in Tahoma. So hit done, and then we'll save this out. Use an image, and save it on the desktop. Okay. Let's close that. Move that away in case I want it later. Okay, and then I'll go to my desktop on my other screen and we'll drag that coffee cup into Tahoma. And as always, it asks if you want to import or load, so I'll import that. And that just puts a copy inside the project file. So for those that don't know, if I bring this folder back over, I believe it should be in the extras folder. There's the copy of the coffee cup that's been imported. Okay, so we'll use the animate tool and I'll resize it. And then I'll add a vector layer. And we use vectors to draw this coffee cup. Just so that I can scale it, change its size. I'm not quite sure what size I want this yet. So do that. I'll rename the column. And all of this you can do in OpenToonz as well as Tahoma. There's nothing unique here. I'll uncheck the eyeball for the imported coffee cup, so that can't get rendered out. And because there's an issue with drawing and filling vectors, what I'll do is I'll use the old trick of adding rectangles and then just readjusting the points to fit around this shape. Why do I have the table enabled? Jagielski's asked. I quite like it, purely so that I can see a difference visually when I go to the camera view. If I turn off the table from the view menu, and for those that don't know, the table is this circle around the drawing area. So if I turn that off, when you go to the camera view, the background slightly darkens, but there's not much difference. So I have it there. Rightly, as you say, it is distracting, but it just lets me know visually I'm not looking at the camera view. So it kind of works for me. Okay, so let's add a rectangle and we'll make the size slightly larger. So let's see how that looks. Oh, that's too big. Undo that. About 2. Yeah, let's try that. But regarding the table being distracting, this is one of the things that Jeremy considered and chose to remove from the default layout because it's distracting and because it's just visual clutter. So if you don't want the table, great, leave it away. But it is an option, like all the other options that have changed. You can bring them back into the view if you want to. Okay, so let's choose the control points editor and adjust this. I'll zoom in slightly. Now, I have found occasionally adjusting points with the control points editor does cause OpenToonz or Tahoma to crash. So it's something just to be aware of that it might happen. So let's place the corners in place first. And I'm going to build this in a number of squares, a number of pieces overlaid on top of each other. I'm not sure if it's the most efficient way, but it's the way I'll start off with, and maybe we'll review this later. Yes, you're right, the camera view does have the magenta outline. As I say, if it works for you, then great. And it's not something that normally bothers me. I mean, as you see now, I've zoomed in to actually see what I'm doing. So in this case, at the minute, it doesn't make any difference to me. Okay, so that's the outline. So one of the first changes and the first differences with Tahoma and OpenToonz is that to add a new palette entry, you can click the plus button just in the list of entries. And also lots about the palette area has changed. So there's a toolbar at the top here in OpenToonz, and that's now been moved to the bottom into this drop down and a couple of buttons on the bottom here, and with this plus button it makes it much easier to add new entries. So this cup, if I just quickly go to a different window and go to my Buy Me a Coffee page, just bear with me a second. Yes, the stream will be archived, so you can take a look at this later and skip through all of the dull, boring parts where nothing's happening to the parts you're interested in. And as usual, I'll be probably marking in the description the interesting points in the video, so you can jump straight to them. Yes, I understand. Yeah, I have the issue sometimes with buffering. I've tried to make my settings work as best as I can to stream this without too much buffering from my side, but it could be my side or yours or who knows where. So feel free to pop back later and to take a look at it once it's been archived and recorded in YouTube. So no problem. Hello there guys, nice for you to join me. So for the new people who've just joined recently, just to mention what I'm doing today, on Thursday I've got a live stream, 6 PM UK time, and I want to start doing live streams a bit more regular. So what I'm trying to do is to build up a few overlays to place over the screen from time to time to pop up to promote my Facebook, Discord and various other things. And I'm starting off with looking at my account for Buy Me a Coffee. And I want this to pop on screen, so I'm trying to draw up a coffee cup and a few words to bring up onto the screen. So I've just gone to my page at Buy Me a Coffee here, and their logo looks like this. It's just a yellow coffee cup roughly drawn. So I want to have a coffee cup to try and evoke that feeling of what the page is. So I'm working on that today. So the main coffee cup I want to have in yellow. So I've added a new colour here, and we'll just drag that to find any old yellow first, just to see something in there. And by default in Tahoma you're only shown the alpha adjustment below the colour selection, but I like using HSV, that's hue, saturation and value, so I always like to bring these back on screen. So that makes it easier to make part of the colour darker or change the saturation. I don't really use the hue, the colour selector, I prefer the cube at the top there. That just makes it easier with these other sliders to get the better colour. So that'll be okay there. Okay, so what I'll do, let's pop my drawing column behind. Oh, I can't really do that because the background is white, so let's keep that in front. So for now, let's bring down the alpha of that yellow so I can see through to the background for adding the rest of the cup. Hi Yash, welcome to the stream. So let's add another rectangle for this cardboard piece in the middle. And choose the black outline colour first. Control point editor, and let's adjust that here. And you can see that the corners automatically have a curve built into them. So what is handy to do is to right click on a point and choose set linear control point, and that takes out that curve. And we'll do the same for the top corner, and we'll have this a little bit outside of the current line. And the left hand side doesn't seem to have a curve for some reason, so that's fine. And then I'll drag the line down to curve that central point. It doesn't need to be exactly on the drawing underneath, just to give us an idea. Okay, so let's add a colour for that. And for now, I'll choose a brown kind of a colour. Let's fill that in. That's fine. And next we want to do the lid. But before I go any further, as I often say, hit save, which is in fact the save all option, Control S, just in case something goes wrong. Always, always, always save regularly. So you may notice the top of the cup here is just left square, and that's because we're going to draw the lid in front of it. So the lid is made up of two pieces. By the way, can you hear the music? And can you let me know if that's too loud or if it needs adjusting at all? Hi Maria, welcome. then we'll add another one for the top part of the lid. Yeah, the saving system is peculiar to most people when they first come to OpenToonz, and that's because most programs, obviously, save as a single file because they are a single file. But if I just bring over the folder, here, so this is the project that I'm working on at the minute. If you take a look in the drawings folder, you'll see that you've got two files here just for this one drawing of the cup. You've got the PLI, which is the vector file, and then a backup file that I've got. And it's really strange at first that you've got lots of folders, lots of files, all for a single project. But it's really useful when you're sharing files between projects or between scenes. And if you've got multiple people working on the same animation, you can just share the one file between different animators. So it makes some sense, but it is a peculiar thing to get used to at first. Hi Amar, welcome to the stream. Yes, I thought I'd jump in and do a bit of streaming. I wanted to create a simple overlay animation ready for the Thursday stream. And I thought, well, I may as well stream this rather than just sitting here on my own doing it. Yeah, it does feel clunky saving the files, but it's just the way it works. So it's just something to get used to and to start to understand how it works. Okay, so we just need a colour for the lid here. So let's make it quite dark. So that didn't fill in because the lines are all overlapping. So I need to group these as individual objects, which is peculiar that you group one object and it changes, but this is just one of the finicky things about working with vectors. So if I group that line, now that fills in completely. Tahoma for today, I thought I would. I've got the latest copy I was experimenting with earlier on today. So I thought I'd start working with it and get used to how it works. Let me add a line in here. Choose black. Yes, the perspective grid is in this version, and I was thinking of possibly showing a little bit of that later, maybe. Really? Okay, it's... I don't know if it'll be in the nightly. I was sent a link through the Discord, so that's where I got the link from for this. And I did that earlier this afternoon, but I can't remember where I got that from. It's in the OpenToonz Discord, the Tahoma channel, which is probably the same one that you've used. So I'll perhaps show that in a short while. Let me just try and get through some of this first. So move that to the front. Bring that colour back up. Okay, so for now, that'll do for a simple coffee cup. And I can tidy that up later. It wasn't a recent nightly. It was fresh from this morning, I believe, the build that's got it in. Right, if you go to the Tahoma channel in the OpenToonz Discord, and scroll up there a couple of pages, you'll probably come across the link. But there's two parts. I don't want to get distracted too much. There's two parts to it. One is when you add a vanishing point, you automatically get a grid around that. And the second is this little magic button here. If I click it quickly, it shows a small grid going across. If I right click it, you'll see the options that you've got. So if I tick rule of thirds, I've now got two very thin, very faint lines coming down at third positions and two going across. So I clicked again to hide them. But yeah, the vanishing points appear automatically at the minute, but I suspect there'll be some options at some point to be able to adjust how they're shown. I much prefer Henning, using raster. In fact, Toonz raster levels, which I use almost exclusively. I'm using vector for this almost as a bit of an experiment, to be honest, and because I'm not entirely sure what I'm after or what size I want things. So if I build it in vector, I can resize it later. But yeah, Toonz raster is my absolute favourite, just through the fact of being able to change the colour as we can here in vector after it's been applied to the page. And the fills work every time. If a line is closed, it will fill, and we all know what vector's like for filling. So let me hide the painting behind. So that's a very poor sketch of the coffee cup. That's kind of all I want for this. And the main thing I wanted to do is start to work on the animation and get something together to see how it looks, to get the ideas properly in my head of what I'm trying to achieve. Now, what I'd like to do ideally is from time to time have these overlays appear on screen, slide into the screen, say what they need to say, and slide away. I don't want them to take over the page, be too huge, or distracting, because they're only overlays while I'm actually performing a stream. So what's happening in the stream is more important, but I still want to have these overlays popping up just to point out for people that don't know what the Facebook page is, where to find the Discord, the Twitter, in this case the Buy Me a Coffee page, and that kind of thing. Yes, I'd love to see Amar, the vectors change, the way you use them, the way they're stored, the way you can fill in the colours. It'd be so nice if they did. But at the minute, I don't know of anybody that's working on it, unless they're doing it secretly, which I'd really like it to be. I don't know if they are. I don't know what happened there. Let's just put that back. Right, okay, so back to this silly coffee cup. So the plan is to have this appear on screen, and I've had a quick play with OBS, which is what I use to do the streaming, and you can quite easily add a Chroma Key to a video or to a video file. So what that is what's commonly known as green screen. So I'm going to add another vector level, and you may notice I've got this toolbar at the top of the screen that you do have by default in OpenToonz, but not in Tahoma. And I added that by right clicking on any of the column headers and choosing Toggle X Sheet Toolbar. So when you first start Tahoma, you've got this one button for creating a drawing level, but I like having that toolbar there. Again, it's more visual clutter that's been taken away from this, but this I find useful. So I can create directly each of the three level types, either the vector level, Toonz raster, or the raster. But in reality, the difference between the three buttons is just them presetting one of these three options in the drop down. So let's create that background. and we want to fill this with green. And this is all it's going to be. And I'll make it an obnoxious bright green. I use a rectangle option and click the auto group and auto fill. So let's draw that around the outside of here. And that shows clearly I've not filled in the white parts of the cup. So let's just do that, and then we'll hide the green so I don't go blind while I'm working. Okay, so this is the yellow, of course, that I filled in and dropped the alpha down just so I can see behind. So the cup is fully coloured in, so I can now hide that background so I can see the screen better. And I'm unticking the table option, which means I can't see it now, but the eye option on the left is ticked or visible, which means it will be rendered out. Yes, I've seen Streamlabs OBS. I've not really tried it yet, Amar. I don't know why. The standard OBS really works for me. I've not got a problem with it, so I've not felt a need to try and try anything else yet. Yes, you're right, Mikhail, about the overlapping lines. Absolutely. But I'll be coming back to that later once I've got the main part of the animation working. So again, just a reminder, I'm hitting the Save All button, which I've got a shortcut on my tablet. Save regular, save regular, save regular, and save all. Okay, so let's get this animation working. So let's drag out the background and the cup for some frames. I don't know how many yet, it really doesn't matter. So if I zoom out, and on frame 1, I want the coffee cup off the screen. I'll have to perhaps take a look at it, Amar, and see if it offers me anything else that's different to the standard OBS. So what I want to do is I want the cup, if I show you the camera view there, it's now off screen. I want the cup to pop up, land on the screen, and then somewhere on some text on the screen saying, "You can buy me a coffee," because you can. So on frame 1, let's start off screen. And no doubt I'll change how this looks in the final version, but as I said earlier, I just want to start something with it and see how it goes. Hi Soda Pop. So before I do anything, in fact before I put that first key, if I press on that diamond and then tap delete just to remove it, before you do that you should really go to the preferences, and I wish it wasn't in preferences, I wish it was on this toolbar here, and set the default interpolation for the animation I'm going to add. And now set speed in and speed out. So frame 1, we'll bring this down here. I want the cup to move straight up, so I don't want it going left and right. So I'll press the lock button next to the X, and then go to a frame, I don't know, frame 13, so that's half a second later, and I'll move it upwards, and that's too high from where I want it because I want some overlap there as it comes in, and then a few frames later I'll bring it down to where it's going to land. So it starts off, it comes up, goes too far, and then comes down, and then I want it to rattle a little bit. So when it goes up here, I think I'll add a little bit of rotation, and to do that I'll move the center point to the very bottom of where the cup touches the floor, so it'll rotate around the top part. So as it comes in, at that point I think I'll add some rotation, which is this top widget. I'll click and drag it to the right a little bit. You can see the rotation value changing there. And on frame 1, I want it 0, so I'll just type 0 in that box and press enter. So that'll set it on the first key. So it goes from 0 through to 3, and then as it comes down to here, I'll have it a little bit more to the right, and then a little rattle over a number of frames. Is that too far possibly? And now I don't know the timing at all yet, so we'll just add the rotation that I'm after. And you can click and drag to adjust it, or if you know roughly where you're going, I can see it's negative to the right, I can just put in a number. I'll hit save there. So it goes from -7.5 through to 3, opposite side -2, then the opposite side again, I'll go to 2, and then we'll go to 0. So let's rewind and play that. And you'll notice that immediately the animation went back to the first frame, which I really don't like. So again, back to the preferences. And I'd really recommend you start looking through the preferences and start changing some of these values to get a feel for what you can change to make OpenToonz or Tahoma work for you. So somewhere in here, is it preview, I think? Yep. There's a tick box, rewind after playback. So if I untick that, now when I play, it'll sit on the final frame. So you can absorb what you've just seen without it immediately jumping to frame 1. So let's see that a few times. Now that's quite slow here. So I'm going to move these keys back, and you can just hold Control to select all the keys, or you can right click on a key and select all the following keys in this column. So that highlights all 4, and I can bring them all back at the same time. So if that's moving 2 frames to there, I'll hold Control and untick that and bring the rest of them back. So it's 2 frames apart. Hold Control, untick the key on 22 and bring back the last 2. So now they're 2 frames apart. I want the last ones to be quite quick, so I might make them 1 frame. But let's take a look at that first. I'll hit save and hit play. Let's change the camera view. Bring this down and take a look. That's not too bad. Okay. So now that's landed, I want to put some words next to it or something. So what do we want? Let me have a little think on that while I have a drink of my actual tea. Okay, sorry about that. I just had to nip off a second. So what I'm going to do, just for the sake of today's experiment, is I'm going to add a new level, and I'll add a vector level. Call it text. And we won't need to see that until the cup is settled, I think. And I'm going to add some text just saying, buy me a coffee. I know I'm going to change this later, but let's put something in there for now. Okay, let's choose the font. So I really like Calibri. Just a nice font to read. The size doesn't matter because we'll change it later. So we'll highlight that, I'll hold shift and I'll resize it. Okay, so the coffee cup bounces down, settles, and then once it's settled, I want the text to appear. So I'll start it there for now. I'll extend that. In fact, I'll extend it to frame 30, and then we can highlight all those 3 columns and extend those out. And I want that to be animated, so I'll move the center into the middle. And I want it to come from behind the coffee cup. So for now, if I just place that to where behind the coffee cup means, and it can't hide fully behind the cup, that's fine. We'll use an effect in a second to bring that out. I'll use the matte effect. So I want that to come out and just appear to the right. So again, I want it to move horizontally. So I'll lock the vertical lock, the Y, and then as I drag it, I can only drag it left and right. So I'll place that just to the right there. So it'll just come out and then stop. And then at some point, I want it to disappear and the cup to disappear too. But first, let's have this text hiding behind the cup. So again, another vector layer. Level. They're not layers, they're levels. So I'll add a vector level which I'll call mask. And this is the mask for the matte. So all this is to paint an area where you don't want the text to be seen. And in fact, what I will do, if I place the text behind the cup, then I don't need to consider the side of the cup because the text will just appear from behind it there. So it's the left-hand side of the cup we need to hide. So on the mask layer, on the mask level, I'll add a rectangle which is auto-filled and auto-grouped. Just like that. And the mask stays there as long as the animation is here. So now we'll go to the the FX room. And in OpenToonz, you'll have a different set of rooms to we have in Tahoma. So just find a room that's got your schematic in, the stage schematic or the FX schematic. It's the same control. If you haven't got a room with this in because you've deleted it or moved it, you can just open a schematic from the Windows menu. So schematic so it is the schematic. We want to use the effects view. So the bottom right is a button that changes from the stage schematic, and you can tell that's a stage schematic because of the layout with the table on the left, to the FX schematic, which you can tell because it says FX here, and just the layout of it with the X sheet on the right. So I want to use a matte in effect. So I go to add effects, matte out to hide the text. So there's 2 inputs to the matte out, the source and the matte. And the source is the thing we want to display, so that's the text. And if we click and drag from the blue triangle on the right of that node, we can place it into the source of this effect. And then the matte is saying, where don't you want this text to be shown? Because it's a matte out. So I click and drag from the black square mask I've painted into the matte. And then the output of that wants to go to the X sheet. So this is the matte out node showing where the text isn't going to be shown. And we can see if that works by pressing the preview button at the top right of the viewer. And the text is now not visible. As I scroll to the right and scrub through the frames, you see the text appearing from behind the cup. So if I save that, and from the render menu, choose preview. And that green is really very, very bright. So let's take a look at that. So it stops before it gets to the end of the animation. If I take a look at that, that's because this white triangle hasn't moved as far as the end of the animation. So on the timeline, if I zoom out a little bit so I can see more of it, we can see these two triangles at the top left here, and that shows the first frame that will be shown in the animation, and it plays and renders up till the last frame where the white triangle is. So I'll click and drag that over to frame 42, and now if I preview that, we should see the full animation. So the text comes out quite quickly there, but it does come out properly, so I just need to change the timing of that. So all I need to do on the text column is drag that keyframe to the right. So that'll last about twice as long as it was before. And then the text and the cup wants to sit there for a short while, and then they both want to go out of the screen again. So I'll extend those drawings for a little bit longer. I'll have them sit there for maybe 2 seconds, and I can tell what 2 seconds is because of these markers shown every quarter of a second. So once the text appears on frame 42, there's 1 quarter, 1/2, 3/4, that's a full second. And I've mapped the middle mouse button to a button on my pen tablet, so I can click and drag using that to move the timeline. And then let's move it another second of 1 quarter, 1/2, 3/4, 2. So that's 2 seconds later. Yes, that's right, Maria. It's quite a similar sort of feature, just a bracketed way to surround the data that you're interested in. So yeah, the two triangles showing the playhead, and you can see because I've extended these frames, the white triangle is still here, so that needs moving over, which you can do by dragging, or you can right click at the top here somewhere on a frame number and choose set stop marker, and that sets it on that current frame. Okay, so that's 2 seconds of sitting there with just the text, and now I want the text and cup to disappear off the screen. So I need more time for that. So I'll just extend this over a little bit here. Okay, so how do we want the cup and the text to disappear? I think the easiest way, just to get this started, is to do what we've just done, but in reverse. So if I go to the text column, I'll go frame 91, and I want to add a key at this same location so the text doesn't move for the previous 2 frames up to frame 91. And we do that by pressing the diamond button underneath the viewer, which on OpenToonz at the minute is an actual picture of a key, and that'll add a key here. And then during those frames the text shouldn't move. And then a number of frames later, I'll go 1/2 second, I'll move the text back behind the cup. So if I go to frame 91, you'll see it slide back there. Then I want a short pause, I want to do the same thing for the coffee cup. So I'll go 1/4 of a second later, again using these separators, really handy. And on the cup level, I want the cup to go down out of the screen. But to give it some anticipation, I'll move it up a little bit first and then down. So the first thing we want, again, is a key at the current position. So I'll press this diamond below the viewer. And then a few frames later, again, let's give it 1/4 second just to get something moving. If I go back to the 2D room, I've then got the tool options bar up here. Here we are, frame 115. So now I want the cup to move up and then down. That's moving in the Y direction. So I'll unlock that, unlock the X direction, so I can't accidentally go left and right. And then I'll move the cup upwards a little bit. So from frame 109, it just moves up slightly, and then we'll move downwards quite a lot. So I'm not sure of the timing yet, so I'll just place it a number of frames later and move it until it's off the screen. That's probably too quick, but we'll take a look at that shortly. Oh, ciao, see you later. See you next time. So one thing you can see here, we've still got the mask on screen and the text on screen. So we don't need that. Once the text is hidden behind the cup, it doesn't need to be seen at all. So what I'll do is I'll remove that by clicking on a cell, clicking on a frame and tapping delete. And that leaves a gap, which now allows me to click on the bar at the top of that column. And that highlights all of the drawings. And I can tap delete to delete them in one go. And the same for the mask. I'll delete the drawing from frame 103, and then I can click anywhere on that bar and it highlights all of the drawings, and I can delete those. Which means that once the cup starts to move, those other items aren't visible. So again, you see the drawing triangle is on frame 90 that hasn't moved. So just to show you another way of moving that triangle, you can select on a drawing of a level that lasts as long as the animation does, and then if you right click on the frame numbers, you can choose set auto markers, and that'll set those two markers to show for as long as that level is shown. So you see the end marker went up to frame 122 and the start marker should still be on frame 1. Okay, so let's take a look at that, not in preview mode, just to see the timing. Not too bad, it's quite quick at the start. But that's okay, I think, for the basics. Let's do another preview to see how that looks. Let me set it to fit to window. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think as far as today's concerned, that's okay, that's pretty good. So what I'll do is we'll render this out and see how it looks, and then I'll think about exactly how I want this to look, and I'll amend it further. I'll change the text and maybe adjust the timing, and that'll be the first overlay completed. So let's go to the output settings and then we'll look to render this. So it's set up using the play markers from frame 1 to frame 122. So check those numbers are correct. I want it to render out to the outputs folder. I'll change the render type. Oh, I've not got MP4 in there. So that must mean that in this version, for some reason, FFmpeg isn't set up. So let's take a quick look at that. In the preferences dialog, look at import export, and there's no FFmpeg. So let me just set that up. So I've already got it downloaded for OpenToonz in C drive, program files local, ffmpeg, and it's the bin folder that we want. So I'll choose that. Let me double check that's the right place. Bum, bum, bum. Yep, that should be the right place. For some reason, that's not allowing it, which is strange. Because if I bring that over, you can see that that's where the ffmpeg exe and the other two exes are. So if I copy that, I'll paste that in instead of browsing for it. I'll close this and then I'll close Tahoma, because you've got to restart it for it to work. Yes, there is a way to refresh some of the pre-rendered frames, and I'll show you that in a second. So if I load my Buy Me a Coffee project, there we go. Okay, so if you're in preview mode here, or you've run the preview dialog, you can right click on the background, and there's two options for this. You can regenerate the frame preview for the current frame only, and you see here in the bar below the viewer, just frame number 6 has been regenerated. If I click on a few of them, so you can see which have been regenerated there. So you can see in grey, these frames have already been created, pre-rendered, so they're already done. As you click on the new area of red, it then goes green while it tries to regenerate it, and then that is grey. So now you can see if I right click and choose regenerate frame preview, it regenerates just the one frame that you're on. You see it go bright green there. But if you want to regenerate them all because there's a number that are incorrect in some way, then right click and choose regenerate preview, and then it clears the cache for all of them and just regenerates the current frame. And if you do that in the preview window, when you first open the preview window, obviously it generates all of the previews. And here you've got the same options of just regenerating the current frame or the whole thing. Yes, Sirion, Tahoma's here. And it's my personal choice, my preference for using OpenToonz. They're both part of the same family, but just some of the features and the layouts I prefer in Tahoma. So it's what I'm using. Okay, so I've restarted Tahoma. I've loaded this project. So let's try and check the output settings again. And look at the outputs. And now I've got GIF and MP4 as options. Okay, so let's render this out into the outputs folder. Save and render. Let it render that. And I'll bring over my Explorer view, go to the outputs window, and you'll see the MP4 file appear there when that's ready. Well, I hope you're all well this evening and enjoying the stream. It's my first full stream, so I hope it's going okay for you and there's not too many technical difficulties. Don't forget I'm back on Thursday with the giveaway stream, where I'm giving away a free copy of my OpenToonz course. And that's for people that have retweeted and followed me on Twitter. And I sent out a tweet last Thursday with the giveaway tweet in it. So if you haven't done so yet, and you've got a Twitter account, feel free to go back and take a look at that tweet. Watch the video on my YouTube that explains the terms and conditions, and then retweet it and give yourself a chance to win a copy of the course. Okay, so here's the Buy Me a Coffee MP4. So what I'll do is I'll go to OBS and I'll add this in and see how it looks in OBS. So I need to, it's difficult to show you because as soon as I bring OBS onto the screen, you get kind of a delay where the same image is being shown inside the same image. So I need to do this on a separate screen, so if you bear with. So I'm adding a, is it a video? A media source. So I'll add a media source, I'll give it a name. And I'm calling it Buy Me a Coffee Overlay. Okay, and then I need to put a file name in, so I'll copy this path, and then I can select the MP4 file, there we go. Okay, so now if I resize that, is the first thing I need to do because it is slightly large. There we go. You can only resize it, it seems, while it's playing. So that's handy. So I want that to pop up there, more or less, from behind the timeline. So let's take a look at it again and put it to the left. Good. So the final thing I want to do is to add a filter. An effect filter called Chroma Key. And I'll just take the defaults on that, and let's see how that looks. Ooh, I just need to change the defaults. It's picking up that yellow as part of the chroma. Thank you, Solrat, and guys, it's been fun doing the stream. I hope it's been enjoyable and you've learned maybe one or two things. So. Let's see how that goes. Let's change this filter. So we've got a similarity. Let's bring that slider down. And because it's just a short video, I can't see it while I'm editing the values in OBS, which is a little bit of a shame. How does that look? So you can see there it's brought in some of the anti-aliasing around the edge. So I need to just fiddle with that a little bit. So let's try and change that one more time, see how that is. Okay. So the principle's there. I need to change that a little bit more and take some time to fiddle with the Chroma Key, or as Amar says, changing the colour of the cup, or maybe I can change some of the anti-aliasing around the cup to not even pick up the colour green around the edge, because that's possibly part of the problem. If I take a look in here and then zoom in preview mode, the issue is these pixels here are going to be picked up, so you've got to decide at what point do I not want to get these pixels. And I know you can change some aliasing with the render, but I'm not quite sure offhand where that is. So I need to look a little bit more into that. So that's something for me to do later. But as I say, I also want to decide on what I actually want this overlay to look like. Because I don't just want to be throwing a cup around and just saying, buy me a coffee. That's not the intention. But I would like a few overlays just to point out some of my socials and some of the ways you can contact me, get in touch and share the information about OpenToonz. So I think that's about it for today. That's the first stage of the overlays done. I'll work on this a little bit more tomorrow, And then I'll be back on Thursday for the giveaway stream. And don't forget that's at 6 PM UK time. So that's 3 hours ago from now for those guys outside the UK. And I hope you've had a fun time. And I'll catch you later. And that's a Darren Tea.